But why don't we speak now to David Drew, Shadow Minister for the Environment and, of course, Labour MP for Stroud. Is there one simple fix to this?
No, there's not, but at least it's getting some profile, and we have to listen to what these campaigners are saying. The simple fact is that the British government has suffered more infraction proceedings at the infamous European Court of Justice on air quality than anything else, and that sums up why it's such an important issue. And for people who suffer, I'm an asthmatic, so I know what this time of year is particularly bad. We have to understand that climate change isn't something in the long distant future, it's here and now. And one of the things we're doing to our climate is damaging it by the stuff we put into the air.
There's the personal responsibility, and that's a really interesting subject matter. What about the politics of this? Alex Chalk will come on later and he'll say the government actually have committed millions of pounds to this. It's actually a much bigger issue than just funding to our county council.
Well, exactly. And the problem is that as, Envirotechnology, a good Stroud firm, will say, we do measure, but we measure periodically. We tend to average up the results, which means that the bad days won't necessarily be picked up. And what we do know is that unless we do much more, then unfortunately people who've got bronchial conditions, their quality of life will worsen. But for everyone, we will see this deterioration, and we shouldn't have that. It's interesting that, again, we've managed to point out that rural areas are as susceptible, not to the same degree, but they're certainly susceptible to the poor air quality, which of course is why, and I will bring it in, to open an incinerator in Gloucestershire at this time is one of the maddest things you could possibly do at a time of poor air quality.
You've said that, that's fine. Let's get back to this core thing here. The County Council say no single organisation can improve air quality alone. We are talking and taking the lead, and last week we hosted a workshop at Shire Hall which was attended by 50 delegates from organisations around the county. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's a good thing. But again, as Envirotechnology said, you need to measure more regularly, more accurately. I mean, the sad thing is, it's not what we measure, it's what we don't measure. Things like particulates, the dioxins, the furans, and the rest of it, because they're very small, they're very difficult to actually get measurement of what exactly is coming out into our atmosphere. Clearly, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, we know a fair amount about because that's why we associate that with climate change. But the sad thing is we don't actually know enough about what we're putting into the atmosphere and what the accumulated effects are. So that's what we've got to do, and that's why companies like Envirotechnology are so important, because they are developing the technology so that we can measure more regularly, better, and then we can do something to deal with the results that they come up with.
Final question, what clout do you have as a shadow minister for the environment?
Well, we've argued a lot with government that it has to do a lot more. I mean, clearly we tend to proclaim and we have to argue with government. I mean, to be fair, government has got the message this is an important issue. We just feel that the resources aren't being applied in anything like the amount they should do, and we are going backwards in some regards rather than forwards because of the nature of what we do with our waste, what we do with our vehicles, and indeed what we do with some of our industries. And it's no good just improving in this country. We've got to improve worldwide because, of course, that's a connection with climate change. So dumping our waste to China is anything other than, if you like, altruistic, because, of course, it's just improving our air quality, but at the cost of China, and that's no good for climate change in the long run.